In Romans chapter 9, it says, chapter 3, verse 9, it says, "What then? Are we better than they? Not at all, for we have already charged that both Jews and Greeks," in other words, all the different types of categories you can put in place, "that Jews and Greeks are all under sin. As it is written," this is the part I had real difficulty with, "there is none righteous, not one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks God. All have turned aside. Together they have become useless. There is none who does good. There is not even one. Their throat is an open grave. With their tongues," oh man, when you read this, it's just, "with their tongues they keep deceiving. The poison of asps is under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their paths, and the path of peace they have not known. And there is no fear of God before their eyes. Now we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to those who are under the law, so that every mouth may be closed and all the world may become accountable to God. Because by the works of the law, no flesh will be justified in his sight. For through the law comes the knowledge of sin." So I titled this message, "Let's Talk About Sin." What's wrong with the world? It's called sin. It's a very old-fashioned word. You know, gravity's an old-fashioned word, but it still works. Just because it's old-fashioned doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because it's old-fashioned and uncomfortable doesn't mean that we need to abandon it. We need to embrace it and understand what this thing called sin is. And I want to suggest to you that most of us, including me, we all struggle in our understanding and concept of sin, because we boil sin down to behaviors. We boil sin down to, well, that's sin. And when you become a Christian, most people say to you, well, that means you're going to behave differently and think differently. And while that may be true, that is not what makes us Christian. That is not what actually the Bible is all about. The Bible is not a self-help works program to get better. It's not a 10 steps to how to break free program. It is a totally different revelation that transforms you on the inside, that makes you a different person, that makes you actually live in a different way of life. That's what the gospel is all about. That's what Paul is trying to get. Now remember, think about this. The person that's writing this message was Paul, who was formerly called Saul. And Saul was one of the ugliest religious people you would ever have the misfortune of coming across. He was an incredibly religious zealot. And if you seemingly was a bad person or you were not a Jewish person, his aim in life was to get rid of you. And he was one of the ones that actually initiated the death, the stoning, the murdering, the martyring of one of the first Christians called Stephen. He was there at the time. He was giving his assent to it. He was a very, very harsh, hard man. And for him to actually write the book of Romans, where he says Jews and Gentiles, we're all on the same plane, we're all alike. For him to write that, my gosh, this man had not just taken a 10-step program to a new way of thinking. This man was totally, completely transformed, which is why he says, I am not ashamed of the gospel, because there's good news. If you can get your mind around it, if you can allow it to come on into your life, it will totally transform you. That's what he's trying to do. And that's what he's telling these people in Rome. He's telling them, you've got to let the gospel in, and you've got to begin to live out the gospel. When we talk about obedience, it's not so much obedience to what God has said in that sense. It's obedient to the gospel. It's obedient to allow Jesus to change you, to change your situation, to make you brand new and justified and right in his eyes. We're going to talk today just about 3 simple things about sin. Sin is universal. We're together in this. No one misses out. You're all the same. We're all under the same. It is the ultimate equalizer. Everyone's suffering. Doesn't matter whether they're rich, poor, doesn't matter what culture you're from, doesn't matter anything. You and I all have the same base problem. It's called sin. Sin is universal. Second thing we're going to be talking about is sin takes you for a ride. We don't want to go on this ride. You've ever been on a roller coaster you can't get off? Ever been on one of those rides where you just pump and you're stuck, the gate goes down and boom, you're off? In life, if you've ever been on a ride in life that you wanted to get off, you say, please, can you stop the ride? I want to get off this thing called life. You will discover that sin is something in you that creates you and takes you in a direction. We're going to talk about that. And then thirdly, we're going to land this thing on what the cure for sin is that we all need. The solution for the world being made right by God through the faith in the work of Jesus alone. I really love this passage. So let's get into it. Sin is universal. We're all together in this. You know, when Paul's writing this, it's funny. It seems really strange the way he puts it all together. But actually what he's doing, it's actually using very legal, technical terms. He's actually quoting from other passages of scriptures. He's coming from Psalm 4, Psalm 5, Psalm 140, Psalm 10, and Psalm 36 with a bit of Isaiah 59 thrown in just for good measure. And Paul's bringing that in. Why is he bringing that in? Because he's making a point to the Jewish believers. They can hear and understand. The Gentile believers, you know, if you've not grown up in church, you find it a lot easier to become a Christian because you don't have a lot of thinking that's not this right. When you grow up outside of church and suddenly the lights come on, you just embrace it all. When you grow up maybe in a religious environment, sometimes it's harder to do the journey. It's harder to track alongside and to be able to get those moments of where all of a sudden the lights come on and you see things. And so Paul is trying to get them to understand from a legal perspective, you all stand guilty before God, which is why he's using this technical legal terms. He's actually using all sorts of legal issues going all through that little passage, talking about the fact that you actually cannot just say, hey, I'm a good person because I've done good stuff. You know, I prayed this week. I read my Bible today. I'm a good person. Paul says it doesn't matter whether you're a good person or a bad person. Paul says it doesn't matter whether you're the axe-murderer or the nice person. And isn't that hard to get your mind around? Like, who? Why? What's going on? Remember Jesus at the cross? One on one side was hurling abuse at him, and the other on the other side said, Jesus, will you forgive me? And Jesus forgave the guy. He had no background, Jesus just forgave him. I don't know what he'd done to get on that cross, but Jesus just forgave him and transformed his life. We all need transformation. And you know what? Sometimes we as humans, what Paul is trying to get across here is that when you follow Jesus, God creates a much better human in you. You discover what true humanity is really all about. You discover a better way of being human. You discover a better way of how to live life. And not only that, you are transformed into that situation and circumstance.